All right, well, first of all, cheers, boys. I'm really happy to do this with you guys. Oh, cheers. Man. Long overdue. Was it 148 days away from Bitcoin 2020? And
another anniversary today, right?
Oh, yes. Good call. The 11th anniversary of the Satoshi white paper. I think we need to do another quick cheers for that.
To Satoshi.
To Satoshi. And we're BSing beforehand, and we'll get into some of the topics that we're going to talk about because we're a very organized, well-fueled machine here. Rigo, you were in, Seoul, South Korea. You were on stage. By the way, this is John Riggins. He does a number of things for us. He's our head of operations over in Asia, and you were at what was the conference again?
Yeah, so we have a little office in Asia, and there was a conference there in Seoul. We have a little office in Seoul. There was a conference over there in Seoul that we were a part of. They put together a great panel.
Yeah, who were you on the panel with?
It was Adam Back, David Chom, and Nick Szabo.
Yeah,
which was a lot of fun, and it was kind of the first time they'd been together, really talking about the history of kind of cryptography and the cypherpunk movement in the '90s, and Hashcash to Bitcoin, and it was a real fun conversation. So
it's literally like the four greatest cryptographers ever.
Exactly,
all on one stage.
All four of us.
So shame on me, all four of you guys. Exactly. Shame on me. I haven't seen the video. We should put that in the show notes and put that out. How did you tee it off?
I don't think there's a video, but we did talk about bringing the game back together at Bitcoin 2020 and running it back and getting video this time. So we'll see if we can do it.
That's awesome. Great plug. Thank you very much, John. So having Szabo there is dope, which is a good segue into...
Exactly. First keynote announced for Bitcoin 2020.
Yeah, and we just announced the second one, which was Tony Hawk. So
Tony Hawk.
One of the cool things, especially everybody on Twitter, which was just amazing, super supportive of Tony and like him being a Bitcoiner. A lot of people had questions. They were like, how is Tony even related to Bitcoin and so on? Maybe we'll spend some time just talking about the context and the story here without divulging too much in terms of our magic. I don't know. How about this, Brandon? You want to give a little background on Tony?
So we can't give away the secret sauce, but it's a pretty interesting kind of story and a glimpse into how he gets stuff done over here. But basically, we were kind of unwinding after Bitcoin 2019, talking about the cool things we we're going to do for the next conference, right? And, going through the moonshot, like, who would be cool? Like, what would be a really cool thing to have happen, which is a dangerous conversation to have, right?
Especially here.
Yeah, especially here. But so I don't remember who it was. I think it was Pat. Pat had talked about, well, dude, like Tony Hawk, he's like a longtime Bitcoiner. We were like, what? And he showed us this tweet from back in May. This was right before the conference. So I think basically everyone in the office missed it because we were all just running around with our heads cut off. And Tony said, like in a random Twitter thread, like he had been holding Bitcoin since like for 6 years.
Unbelievable.
And that's longer than most people in the space, and like no one even knew it.
And it was right after the like big ramp up, that run in June when it went to 10K. So people were like really hyped, and then that guy was like, "Hey Tony, how cool would it be to ride this ramp?"
Yeah, he was like, "I've been riding it for 6 years."
No big deal. It was just like not even a retweet. It was like in the replies, just randomly.
Right. Like he wasn't trying to like hang his hat on that one. He's just. The guy's so cool.
That's why so many people didn't realize that he's into Bitcoin because he was just like nonchalant about it and so on. And then a lot of us that are in Bitcoin Twitter were like, holy shit.
Yeah. So like basically we kind of talked around and found out that, we knew someone who, is a good friend of ours who actually could get us in contact with him. And he kind of gave us one warm intro. And like 24 hours later, we hopped on the phone with Tony Hawk. And like Rod, you're on that call too. It was crazy.
What people think about this guy, Tony Hawk, is the real deal. It was just so cool. Jumps on the phone. We didn't even expect him to be on the phone. Jumped on the phone like, hey, this is what are you guys thinking? I'm down for this, and this. And
did you get some context into like what he thinks about Bitcoin? Did you kind of go into some of that?
So, man,
save
first
that for
of all,
2020.
I'm not going to lie. I'm fairly confident in myself, but I was starstruck, and I was just like, "You're Tony Hawk," and I'm just going to listen now. and limit my questions and so on.
Prevent my voice from going really high. Yeah.
Like it is right now, yeah, for sure. So we didn't really get into it other than like referencing the tweet, referencing like kind of the ethos of the conference, like, you know, it's Bitcoin and we want to bring the community together, and really around DB's theme around making Bitcoin fun, and removing all of just the BS that's surrounding, you know, that you can get into in the rabbit holes of Bitcoin Twitter. And, you know, I mean, I don't think he's really like into Bitcoin Twitter as much or knows like how crazy it is.
Sure.
And he was just like, yeah, that's whatever. We're down for this. And then we were talking through some ideas. And I mean, like we were thinking like this small, right? When it comes to like, hey, we can... So if you came to Bitcoin 2019, like if you, we're actually going to be, knock on wood, we're going to be doing it at the same venue, SBN West again, but it's going to be even cooler and badder than it was even last year.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, hot take.
Not too hot.
Yeah, it's not even
Not
hot
that
take.
hot.
It's like the worst kept secret that we have right now. Yeah.
I know. I think actually the TBD link on the website actually links to SVN
Yeah.
West, so that's pretty funny. So there, but like one of the cool things, Brandon especially, as well as Justin, Pat, and the event core team are working on the permitting. So we're actually in talks to block off the 12th Street and do a whole block party there. So we were at Bitcoin 2019. We had food trucks. We had a DJ set. We had a beer garden on top of the rooftop. We're actually going to be taking that experience and expanding it down to the 12th Street area. The reason why I explain all that is we were talking about like some small little ramp, little like children's park for Tony to skate on. And he's like, yeah. So I have my own ramp, and how about I bring my own ramp?
And when he says his own ramp, it's a vert ramp. It is a ginormous,
like 40 by 32 feet, and
it's more than that, dude. It is huge.
Wow.
And like, so we immediately looked at like the road we're blocking off, and we were like, well, it's literally not going to fit in that road.
Well, so I mean, like into the details. I mean, you can expand on this. Like,
this is something that people are asking a little bit on Twitter. It's like, hey, can we bring her out? And they're joking, but then really we're working on it.
We're working on this, yeah.
Oh, no. From day one, I mean, how about this? From call one with Tony, he's the one that brought this idea up, and with his own ramp.
Skater at heart. That's what he wants to do. Yeah.
I mean, it was just so badass. And so we actually had to break down the 12th Street area. And if people are not going to realize this, but there's two sidewalks, and actually the sidewalk pops up just a little bit, right? So we have to factor that level in. And the other factor is, because we're still with SF permitting and so on, there needs to be a fire lane that goes through the 12th Street area, no matter what. So Tony's vert ramp is so massive that it takes up the entire 12th Street from left to right, if you will. So long story short, no promises, but we are doing everything known to man to make this happen.
Let's make it happen.
We still got some tricks up the sleeve.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we just jumped right into the ramp, which is pretty dope, and I think a lot of people are going to love that background. So you mentioned his background in Bitcoin. I think that's something that he's going to talk about at Bitcoin 2020. Mm-hmm. Like, how the heck did he get into it? Why has he been holding for so long? I mean, shit, if he's been in it for 6 years or so,
Yeah,
I said shit. All right, so
ding, 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 ding.
Can someone hand me my phone? I need to get my Dropbit wallet. So yeah, we got a BitPiggy. So one of the dope things about
over there.
Yeah, Beer Man, thank you.
Thanks, Beer
Man.
Man.
If you can grab me a beer, that'd be great.
Me too, Beer Man. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
So one of the dope things, and especially and I'll introduce Michael here at Taiberg on Twitter. We get a lot of cool product. Thank you, my man. I appreciate that. Look at that. And we so our friends at BitPiggy send us one of these, and I'm a father, so I am trying not to swear as much. So I'm going to throw some sats into the BitPiggy. And I think we're going to send it out once a week to one lucky subscriber. Somebody likes, retweets, and I'll let the marketing people figure all that jazz out. But yeah, I'm going to just send it right now from my Dropbit and get that going.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to do 10,000 sats, which, by the way, it's...
So while Rod's doing that, yeah, we're definitely going to be doing a giveaway. These sats will go to someone who is paying attention to us on social, for sure. And it's mostly going to be Rod's money, because it seems like he has...
let's not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's done.
There's 10,000 sats.
Brandon.
Thanks, boss.
Mike.
Nice.
Done.
Roger, you need another one?
Yeah, please, buddy. So anyways, yeah, so from the social perspective, by the way, so we do this Tony announcement, which is awesome. And by the way, the fact that he engaged, and then it was funny because there's like a 2-3 hour like delta in terms of his response. And then I saw it flooded with like so many questions, so many memes, and then like as John said, like the ramp, right? Everyone's like asking about the ramp, and then he comes in and is like, I forget even what he said. He's like, blah blah blah. He's like, so can I bring my ramp? I mean,
that was awesome. Like,
what was your take on like what was the hottest meme that you saw, or what was?
I thought it was cool. I think the coolest part were so many Bitcoiners that we know in the industry and just people we see on Twitter. They were like, Mr. Hodel, he said, and we'll drop this tweet somewhere like in the screen, but he was like, wait, tell me that Tony Hawk isn't a Bitcoin maximalist. And so there were so many people who were in Bitcoin didn't know this, and I think that was the coolest part, because then you see Tony respond to this, and then we bring up, and someone else actually brought up the original tweet where he was like, I've been writing this for 6 years. So I think the shock factor, and then just making everyone like, how awesome is it to find out that someone that you like.
Yeah, that was actually.
And like that's one of the things we were talking about when we first like thought of who, like when we decided Tony Hawk, and everyone was talking about, well, who's someone that is really hard, like you can't dislike this guy because he's such a good person.
Dude, one of the cool things, at least from my perspective, was seeing people that were like, hey man, I got into skateboarding, at such a young age, and now I'm into Bitcoin. I didn't even know you were into Bitcoin. Like, this is so dope. Or like, I mean, there was I forget her name, Katie, who was like somebody, I forget her name, Katie something, was like, I'll bring my own mini ramp if Tony will skate.
Yeah.
Like, people were coming out of the woodworks in terms of cool ideas and so on.
Well, the thing that we even talked about a little bit was like, there are parallels between these two groups, right? Like skateboarding and Bitcoin, they have some similar values. There's like this rugged individualism. There's this, peer review of what you're doing. There's this freedom to kind of not go with the grain, but be yourself.
Okay.
Like there are really some key parallels to draw, and like the more we kind of thought about this idea of having Tony, the more we were like, this is actually like this is a good marriage of kind of two different groups. So
for sure, yeah,
countercultures for sure.
Yeah,
is he the coolest Bitcoiner now? Who's like we had some like celebrity type folks come out like in the, kind of the shitcoin boom. You had Mayweather doing some stuff. Yeah,
but that's shitcoin. Like, who's the coolest?
Who's the coolest Bitcoiner now? It might be Tony.
That we know of. But I would say so. Yeah.
Well, what about Kanye?
Kanye, yeah.
But that was what we were talking about earlier. Like, does Kanye hold
Soulja Boy? As a Memphian, I a little partial to Soulja Boy, but
Soulja. Tony.
I was talking to my mom.
No disrespect.
Earlier, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I was talking to my mom about it, and she brought up a really good idea that we should ask Kanye to do like a Sunday morning service after the conference, like a Bitcoin service type thing.
100.
Wow.
This is the dangerous pie in the sky kind of thoughts, but
this is where the ideas come from.
Yeah,
this is how ideas are generated.
They come from my mom. Yeah,
that's right. That's right, man. All right, so Tony's amazing, Nick's amazing, and to be honest with you, on different just segments, areas, levels, whatever they may be, I think all of the next speakers that we're going to be announcing are all so freaking amazing. In their own right, that I can't wait over the next few weeks.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite things about Bitcoin 2019 is that we had a great lineup of like Bitcoiners speaking and there in 2019, and they're all just walking around the venue. They're all just having a good time. Yeah. It's such a friend with friend thing. Bitcoiners together. It's just a great vibe. So that's one other, and we'll close with the whole Tony thing. And this is we're giving all of our points here, but. I mean, Tony brought up like, hey, like you guys want to do kind of like a meet and greet and, and so on. Like, how do I, in a tame fashion, interact with folks? And I expect, Tony and everybody else to be kind of fitting that vibe, which is going to be pretty awesome. I think Dorian Nakamoto was maybe our most selfie attendee last year. Seriously. I don't know. Tony might be a little better as a selfie person than Dorian, but
I was just going to say he was so cool to have at 2019 because he was just one of us. Like he was walking around, you could come get a picture with him, and he's such a cool person in Bitcoin that was such a casual thing. Shout out Crypto Graffiti for making that happen. That was great. Yeah.
The best part was when we were breaking down, he came and ate late dinner with us, just hanging out.
Yeah, hung out for a while.
It's great.
It was awesome.
All right, let's close this. Meaning tickets. So what's crazy? We've almost sold 1,000 tickets now,
We're almost there.
and we have differing views here, which is the venue capacity is 4,000.
Officially.
Officially, it is less than 4,000.
What's the block party street?
We're going to figure out how to configure this in a way to maximize the number of people we can get there, but there's no way that we can configure this where we're not going to end up probably selling out of this thing. So, I mean, it's just a matter of time before all these tickets are gone. And, yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can do about that.
Man, I agree. So, like, if someone was doing an analysis, like, if you're tracking this, we're, like, tracking towards, like, a 400,000 person event based on where we are today. I mean, obviously that's not going to happen, or it can't physically happen. So when's the next time we're raising ticket prices?
Yeah, we're increasing them November 15th. They're currently $150 in dollars if you pay with a credit card, $100 you pay with Bitcoin, and it's going to go up by $50 each. So it'll be $150 with Bitcoin and $200 with credit card.
And
so we're going half with Bitcoin.
Just $50 off. Yeah.
And if you pay with cash, you can't get a ticket because no one likes fiat.
Yeah.
So
keep your dirty fiat to yourself.
Now we're also going to have a live stream and so on. So there's that opportunity. The one thing here, and we're going to announce our sponsors, which is the main reason why we're able to keep the ticket prices so low. So I think in the next 2 weeks we're going to announce our initial Genesis partners. So I cannot wait to get those folks out to you as well.
Yeah, if anyone's like sitting behind their screen right now, like doing the math and figuring out like how the numbers don't quite add up for this to be a successful conference, it's the sponsors. Like they're the ones that are able to let us have these low ticket prices.
Totally.
100%.
And next week, speaking of next week, we're going to demo the HTC Exodus 1S.
Yeah.
Which is such a dope phone.
Phil
Chen, Lawrence, Ryan, the team over at HTC. Well done. We're going to show it next week on the Happy Hour pod. Cannot wait. We're actually in Berlin, and I actually bought one, picked it up. My full node's syncing right now, and we can't wait to show it. But they're potentially selling your products in front of potentially 4,000 folks, 100,000 people on the live stream. Those are projections and such. I think could be a huge opportunity. So that's why we're only going to do $50, so we can confirm that only $50 increments. But we're going to be doing those more often than not because we got to be staggering up till sellout.
For sure.
Awesome. All right, Tony, hit us up on the replies. Not me specifically, but these three guys at Taiberg, at Brandon_D_Green.
Don't forget it.
Okay, sweet. And at Dist Riggins. We'll put those in the show notes. One other topic, especially since we got Riggins here, Mr. Asia, is China. A couple things. We go into the first one, which is, I think on top of everyone's mind in Bitcoin Twitter, which is the whole Bitmain Jihan stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to first, and before I get into that, is maybe talk about the Bitcoin in Asia podcast for a hot second, and then maybe talk about your background with.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm based in Shanghai here for a couple weeks, getting a new passport actually. But we are starting something we're hearing a lot from folks is, hey, we want some better analysis of what's actually happening in China, what's happening in Asia. We're not really getting the right lens into what's happening there. And then people over there are really wanting to get kind of their story told in a more well-analyzed way. So we're starting a Bitcoin in Asia podcast focused exclusively on Bitcoin's development in Asia, who the main players are, what's happening, regulatory-wise, what the relevant government agencies are thinking about it. So that's kicking off, I think, next week. We've already interviewed 3 people this week with some good takes. That's a great question. We will have someone from the executive level at Bitmain in the next 3 weeks on the pod talking about what's been happening there. Definitely is a topic of conversation on crypto Twitter. WeChat's been blowing up about rumors and things happening, which is mostly actually reported fairly accurately over here in English publications so far. I think kind of the gist of it is it's really just a kind of intercompany drama that could happen in any type of company. Sure. It's more interesting to us, obviously, because it's a Bitcoin company. But sort of the power struggle between Jihan and actually the larger shareholder and co-founder who had been taking the company in more of kind of an AI-focused direction. And something that's kind of interesting that really probably allowed Jihan to come in when he did is Xi Jinping's comments last week, kind of being pro-blockchain, pro-cryptocurrency. Maybe gave Jihan some kind of confidence of investors and board members to kind of step back in the picture and make his power play. So it's an interesting development.
I didn't think to connect those two.
Plus, it's just a more bullish year for Bitcoin in general, right? So the business is doing better. They had AI divisions more kind of the venture play for them as the internal document said. So
sweet.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna add something here. I think that's one of the coolest things that we're doing is bringing that light to what's happening in Asia, because I mean, I'm an American. I work here, and as much as I want to say I know what's going on in Bitcoin, that entire side is completely just not segmented or broken off, but I just have no grasp.
People have been saying that
on.
for a long time, and really the gap still hasn't been filled. So we're going to really focus. I'm going to be focusing really on filling that and getting the right information out.
Awesome.
People are doing a good job of it on Twitter already, but we're going to kind of put a real company focus on it.
Dumb question, because I didn't think to link these two things, but what are the odds that Bitmain is somehow going to be involved with China's digital yen currency?
It's a good question. Proof of work, digital. Not yen, by the way. That would be
all right,
Japan. But yeah.
Told you dumb question.
So one person I was chatting with yesterday was the CEO of another kind of large blockchain company based in China, VeChain.
Blockchain.
And enterprise blockchain focused, and which is what kind of Xi's comments were really supporting, right? So one thing that's interesting that he said was that just as of a week or so from the comments, they're already being just bombarded with requests for them to kind of help bigger companies or government or local governments build out blockchain applications within themselves. So they're just being bombarded with more requests than they can handle at the company size they are. Wow. He said it's exciting, then one kind of risk for these blockchain companies, which are still relatively small compared to the Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, all these companies that are kind of the tech giants of China and already have the parties kind of hand behind them. Those companies are going to be going heavy into blockchain also, and that's a tough competitive landscape to be a part of when you're a $400 million company or a $5 billion company versus a $100 billion company, right? So it's kind of a good problem to have, essentially, but the competitive dynamics can be interesting there. There's going to be a lot of money going into it, a lot of local government funds available for blockchain now. So it's going to be an interesting time to be working with blockchain in China.
Yeah, and so, wow, that's actually, I learned a couple things new there. So you're not only talking about China, but you're talking about overall Asia. So obviously sipping on that Japanese beer. So how do you look at each of those different areas, out of curiosity?
Sure. Yeah. So mainland China is its own thing. I guess you traditionally kind of break it up into three areas: mainland China, East Asia, which would be the developed economies of Japan and Korea, and Southeast Asia. You have Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong. Just geographically, you kind of break it up that way. But Japan, Korea, mainland China are all very unique places. As we saw from the controversy at the Winter Olympics this year, I don't know how many people paid attention to that, but the Korea-Japan rivalry is actually kind of ramping up lately. Yeah. Japan-China rivalry is kind of ramping up. Not fully kind of business focused, but
do you think we're way behind? With the whole Libra stuff that's happening right now, Congress is holding this up. It seems like again, at a very surface level.
Sure. So,
and I don't know the information as well as you do, but at a surface level, it seems like Xi is out here talking about quote unquote blockchain, whatever that is, but blockchain technology, we need to invest in this and so on. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'll say this: when you talk to executives in China, and they probably kind of have to have this narrative publicly, essentially, but I think they do generally believe it, that the government system over there is just so much more efficient at allocating and kind of driving innovation in the right direction, or in a direction that they want it to. Which, if it's the right direction, is better competitively than the situation we have where we have Congress. Everyone wants to get their own face on a tweet haranguing Zuckerberg about something when and not really kind of coalescing around what's best for America competitively long term. What would we be focusing on? So I think certainly that dynamic is shows itself in all sorts of industries, but in crypto right now it's relevant. In China, if they kind of pick the right directions, they can probably surpass us and like how fast they develop.
So let me put on my my Bitcoin maximalist hat real quick though. Let's pretend for a second that China just drives all of its innovation towards blockchain. And I know that most blockchain is just, even though she won't let you say it, blockchain may be a scam, right? Like, in the long run, is America actually benefited by the fact that they're holding up all of this crazy, industrial push towards blockchain, and then China's going to just pour their economy into it and potentially have it be a dead end? Like,
sure, and pour their economy into it. China can, it can be 0.5% of what new spending or something next year, and it's a larger amount of money. They're not. It's still less of a push for them than like 5G or AI or something like that.
That's good to know.
But yeah, to your point, I think that's a great point. And I think Naval tweeted something else kind of interesting. It's like, first the enterprises go for blockchain, not Bitcoin. Now it's the government's turn, which I would agree with generally. One thing that's interesting though is that like in Sichuan and some of the provinces in China where mining is very mining's kind of concentrated in these areas, and in the past it's kind of had to be kind of under the table payments and skirting around regulators in some senses. Now that's being encouraged. So you have comments and from papers in those areas pro mining industry, pro these things.
Wow.
And so that's kind of the place where, hey, Bitcoin is actually, they're not going to say it publicly, but Bitcoin is considered a part of this. And even in some of like the education that they're pushing out through state channels, Bitcoin is like, said to be like the start of all this. And so if mining can concentrate in China still and the government can support that, that's a competitive advantage for sure in Bitcoin.
When you say now it's being encouraged, do you mean now literally as in like in the past 2 weeks now? Or do you mean like it's been a long time?
It speaks to how that like, everything moves faster because it's this kind of top-down thing. So she says something, all the papers start reporting on this thing, saying these things, and the local governments try to kind of compete to be the most pro this thing that they can be. Well, one thing that people maybe think, I say top down, people think about China as a very centralized government and it just all is dictated from the top. But these local governments really do have autonomy. At the same time, they want to impress the kind of party that's headquartered in Beijing, and so they try to do that by outcompeting each other on these kind of verbalized initiatives.
So you brought up mining, which is really cool. And next week, BTC Cass will be back in the office, and she's heading up our What's Happening mining focused podcast, which will be really great to get it.
Yeah. We were just in Chengdu a couple weeks ago and talking to everybody, and just kind of immersed in the mining industry there. We had a good time.
By the way, how big is Chengdu as a city?
Yeah, 20 million or so.
20 million.
Officially.
No big deal.
Yeah.
So it's one of those Chinese cities I've never heard of as an American, without a global sense. And it's, 7 million people more than New York City? Is that right?
New York is like
6
8 million, so it's like 12 million more, right?
I thought New York was like 14 million. But
yeah, we need a fact check.
Yeah, there are third-tier cities in China that are bigger than New York.
Beer Man, fact check, please.
Wow.
Real time. I bring up mining because this is not on our top list of topics, but I am curious, especially we have you in the studio here. Can we compete in mining?
Mining? Of course.
We got West Texas with Layer 1.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the U.S. is already we're kind of speaking maybe out of our expertise here, but already
100%.
Everything
gas I say is
the biggest exporter of the world now. We can make it happen in the U.S. In terms of like energy production and using it for Bitcoin. It's just, hey, what's the commercial play there, and is it the right thing to do economically?
I will say though, China's got solar going much better than we have going right now. Like,
why do you think that?
Well, I mean, China's been investing in solar like crazy.
They're exporting a lot of like the physical like hardware that's important for solar, but it's not like China has a better angle from the sun or anything.
Well, yeah. Like they're pointing resources toward it. We're still pointing resources toward coal and all that kind of like we won't see the dividends now, or they won't see the dividends now. But in 15 years, I bet they'll see the dividends of all this investment they're putting into it.
Yeah, you gonna say something?
Yeah, no. So I mean, we're talking about mining, and then you're saying that blockchain's more like friendly and more open to like development in China. So I've been having this question the last few minutes about regulation. Is it safe to say, in like a broader sense, that the U.S. regulation is a lot more restrictive and I guess strict, to be frank, than China, and China is a lot more supportive in blockchain?
No. I mean, certainly, like it's trending that direction, and like the comments from Xi are more, and this it's gotten a lot of attention, rightfully so, because it's really been like a Kickstarter there recently. But I mean, this in the 5-year plan back in 2016, which is when I moved over there, they put out a 5-year plan that we translated, published in Bitcoin Magazine actually. But in blockchain, AI, a couple of other things were like the 5 technology pillars of the next 5-year plan. And so blockchain has been part of their narrative for a long time. So the thing that they're not as friendly towards regulatory wise as the U.S. is like cryptocurrency in general, like trading and buying and selling.
Is it legal
like
to buy?
Not paying for things. Is it
legal to buy Bitcoin?
The public
in
nature
China?
of Bitcoin is still a problem in China a little bit.
Gotcha.
Is it legal to buy Bitcoin in China right now? Do we know?
Is it legal to buy Bitcoin in China?
Yeah.
It's not legal to interact with like payments and things like that. Like financial institutions can't interact with Bitcoin in that way. But the OTC market is very strong in China. Obviously, the exchanges that are thought of as Chinese, like Huobi and OKCoin, are doing really well. So
one of the cool things, and then we'll get to the next topic, and I really am excited about the Bitcoin in Asia podcast, is like really telling those stories, because
we're going to be talking to the right people about the right topics.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you mentioned OKCoin and OKX and those folks. I mean, there's the whole, like, obviously PayPal Mafia, which is really well known, and then there's this whole like thing about the Coinbase Mafia, but there's like 30 different quote unquote.
That's a great
mafias.
point, and to that, because you've met a lot of these OKCoin guys in your time over in Asia. But OKCoin's a great example of a company that people know, but they don't know that there are like 30 successful blockchain startups running now in Asia that were former OKCoin
Was
people under Starship.
OKCoiner?
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the cool things, though, but your focus is again on Bitcoin in Asia, and then the root of their the root being Bitcoin and how Bitcoin relates to all these different topics.
For sure, 100%.
So I have zero idea because that computer is blacked out, but we're probably going up on time.
You got 10 minutes.
Cool, 10 minutes. Beer man, good man. One of the fun things that we talk about is the bull market, bear market. And what was it? Last Friday, we had for me, I'm a noob. I just got into Bitcoin today. 8 days ago. Yeah, 8 days ago. And it was amazing to see a parabolic just 40% rip. And I was actually following on Bitcoin Twitter, and a lot of the OGs and people were like, no, this is different because we've seen gradual inclines of 40% over, like, let's say a few days and so on, or whatever else have you. And it may have been, I forget who tweeted it out, and I apologize for not referencing you, but it was
Eric
like
Voorhees said something like that.
I think Voorhees, I think it was Voorhees. It was like, this is the 4th largest increase in Bitcoin price on a per day.
If it had closed above 10.3 or something, it would have been the 3rd largest.
Yeah, which is, I mean, if you think about it, in the history of Bitcoin, and we were able to witness and be a part, like, or at least for me selfishly, be like watching it happen on my couch. I'm just like, oh my God.
Is it for the technology?
Yeah, well, okay, so 100%, but at the end of the day...
Wait, you watched it on your couch? You weren't in the office?
Well, it was like 10 o'clock at night. I mean, you guys are like diehards. I love it. I actually, have a little kid I got to make sure that's, breathing and eating and so on. But anyways, it was just so freaking fascinating to see that, right? And then the debate, which I'm really interested in, is like, all right, when's the bull, or conversation is like, when's the bull, or the question, when's the bull market? Are we still in a bear market? Or are we in a bull market right now? So I'm going to stop there and ask one question, which is, what is the next driver of the bull market?
Okay.
So you're assuming that we are in a bull market?
No.
Well,
I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe we're in a
What's
whatever
the driver
market.
of the next bull market?
Yeah, what's the next
Gotcha.
driver of a bull market? Like I already know Brandon because he and I have gone back and forth on this. He thinks we're in the right in the middle. I'm putting words in your mouth, and you can correct me. Right in the middle of a bull market, and we are not even close to finishing it off.
Early middle, yeah.
Early middle.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first here. First of all, I don't think the price movement from last Friday was that crazy. I know in terms of like percentage-wise and everything else, it was crazy. But if you zoom out like 3 weeks, we were basically going back to where we just were. There's like some pretty good
1 week. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even 1 week. It's not that crazy of a move with some context. It just felt crazy, and it did feel crazy. But, I made this prediction on POV Crypto like at the beginning of this month or early last month that like I think by the end of the year or early next year, almost happy to hang my hat on before Bitcoin 2020, we are going to see like 18, 19K. We're going to go past all-time highs before the next conference. So like,
is that a hot take?
It's a hot take.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take.
There's a lot of people who want to see 1 or 2K. There's a lot of people who want to see 5K. So like,
yeah, I don't even want to reference the people that are.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we are in a bull market, and this next bull market is just going to be the most insane thing we could ever expect. And like the reason being, like my driver is, I think central banks are going to dip their feet in. And personally, the real hot take is I think they already are. You can look at Venezuela and what Maduro's trying to do to, float this petro and like revamp his economy. I would be shocked if Maduro wasn't secretly, buying Bitcoin and holding it to have a standard later on.
Man, I'm going to butcher the guy's name. But he was on Marty's podcast. He's, I think, the founder of Ledin, Venezuelan guy. Man, I'm not gonna, buddy, I'm going to give you a shout out next time on the pod. But he claimed that's already happening. It's something along the lines of, and I'll correct this because it's definitely going to be wrong, but it'll be directionally right. That there's some Maduro cronies that are actually going out and buying Bitcoin right now. They're just printing more, whatever the bolivars are.
Handing it to like local BTC, local Bitcoin kind of thing.
And they're just going buying it up and then putting it. Again, we could go into it, but I thought Maduro was saying like, here's my crypto balance sheet and so on to go and get funding from X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So nation states kind of agree. That's going to play. I don't know if it's playing as much as...
It's playing right now. And the only thing is that they haven't come forward yet to say it because they're all trying to accumulate without everyone else knowing it. Yeah. I mean, here's the real bold prediction from all of this is that one of the global superpowers in the next 30 years is going to be one of these like totally irrelevant countries that has been secretly stockpiling Bitcoin and is now going to be like a financial superpower in the next, iteration of global economies. So there's your wild Super Bowl Bitcoin prediction.
What about you, Taiberg?
I love Brandon's take.
But we're more on the bear side.
No, not on the bear side. I think, we can all agree on how Bitcoin changes people's time preference. And I definitely think that the central banks buying Bitcoin narrative is like pretty far away because we have this. There's a time preference associated with Bitcoin, and if you see why if you see why governments are printing money and what they're doing with it, I just feel like the time preference and just unless they're just printing extras to buy Bitcoin and that's all secretive, sure. But I just think fundamentally the time preference of holding Bitcoin for that long is so anti what governments print money excessively to do in the first place for that I don't think they're doing it for a while.
Can I just add in too, like how hilarious is it that Bitcoin exists at the same time as MMT? Right?
Coincidence or no?
I don't know if it's a coincidence, but like the fact that there is an actual prevalent economic theory that says we can just print money forever and it won't hurt anything is so funny when you're sitting in Bitcoin. I just had to throw that in there.
Government money will never go away if you ask some. But back to your question about bull market and
the driver of the next bull market.
Yeah, totally. So whenever someone asks about a bull market, I think Melton was one of the first people that I heard say it in person where I was like, oh, that's true. But we've always been in the bull market, first of all, because Bitcoin started at, cents. It was worthless at one point, and now we're all the way here. So, bull market all the way to, moon. But I just think the bull market in general is really a result of the right before the bull market, which also is worth adding that we don't really know what a bull market is until, the price is 2, 3, 4x from all-time highs. Or maybe, we pass all-time highs and that's when we have a bull market. So it's always in retrospect. But just in general, I think a bull market is driven by people buying up Bitcoin because they like it and they see this value in it. And that happens for a really long time, months, years, 2, 3 years. And then the float gets so scarce and thin, and so much of the supply is held up by people not selling when it goes up, that then when you have a tight float for something that's fundamentally scarce and you can't make more of it, which we've never really seen before, as people know, when that happens and people want to buy up that small remaining amount that's circulating on exchanges, I mean, the price moves on skates. And that's why we've never seen anything like, actually, that might even be why we went up 40%. We have a bunch of combinations of things like accumulation from institutions all through, the 3, 5, 6, 7K. And then we have people trading. So you have stops and everything like that. And then you have a very limited supply and people just buying up and being like, maybe this is it. Yeah. It's just buying and selling. I don't know.
Going on the scarcity thing too, and like rounding up, kind of my theory here. Halvening is in May.
Is it priced in?
No, it's not priced in.
Might be April.
Could be April if we get a whole bunch of hash power on the system in the network. In November, December, we'll have our first major central bank come out and say that they're sitting on Bitcoin that they're like backing their currency with.
This November, December.
This November, December.
So like tomorrow's November 1 by my calculations.
Okay, not okay. November, December 2020.
Okay.
Just to be clear, I mean this
after the halvening.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, December. Okay, got it.
So like when you have that start like bull run and they start seeing like the bull runs happening and their goal is to push it as high as possible to make their investment look as smart as possible, they announce it to just skyrocket the price even more.
So here's my dumb take, which is there's the nation states, there's the institutions, right? Like those are just huge checkbooks, obviously, right? One that can just print their own money, and two that just like play with house money, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it. I do think there's an interesting way when you look at loyalty points and credit card points and so on, and you're seeing so many of these amazing companies, like you're seeing companies like an amazing company like Casa with Sats back, and you're seeing another amazing company like whether it's Dropit, Bottle Pay, PEI, to Lolly, which is an amazing one, Fold, which is an amazing one. They're incentivizing, and this is what blows my mind, they're incentivizing people with sats. And I think there's going to be, sooner than later, a mind shift. And Matt Odell's been pushing this for a long time. Shout out, Matt. That thinking in sats. And that but to your point, Taiberg, about the scarcity, like how long can those folks be shelling out sats? Like those marketing budgets are in the millions, and they're buying up sats, I assume. I don't know this. And so if there's a constant buy pressure to buy all of those sats and put them into new wallets or existing wallets, that's a whole nother avenue. I need to write this a little bit up and put this pen to paper, but I think there's something there.
I think, and just to add to that, I don't know if it provides any more clarity, but I think that the way Lolly, I think Alex explained this on some podcast, but he basically, Lolly, from what I heard, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but they go to a Walmart or something, and this is how they get them to give sats back. They basically go to them and say, hey, we have a whole crowd, an audience of Bitcoiners. They're going to spend, in order to get sats back, let them get a discount at your store, and then whenever they spend, I think Lolly does actually buy back some sats every time a purchase like that happens. So
I think they take like the percentage of the rebate or whatever that is, and they're giving the sats back to the individual
and
in
they
their
just
own
buy
wallet,
it there,
which is dope AF, as you kids like to say.
Oh, Rod.
Anyways, man, doxing. Okay,
that hurt.
That's right. All right. So we're probably well above our time, and people are probably tuned out by now. So, any closing tidbits and so on you guys want to say?
11 years. Good 11 years. Another.
11 years ago, this was a thought on a paper.
Isn't that wild?
I love hearing what people did before Bitcoin because no one was like, oh, I was doing Bitcoin. No, you weren't. What were you doing? It's so crazy. people were doing the most random things.
Yeah, we should actually. That's a really good point. I'm going to ask, like, what were you doing 11 years ago? And just
Seriously.
I was a pizza delivery guy. I was in college. I was like, middle school, whatever.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
All right, well, boys, cheers again.
Cheers,
Thanks for doing
Cheers.
this.
Oh, I'm empty. But cheers.
Yeah, so thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back next week. And now thinking off the top of my head, I think we need to tell a story of like how in the heck does Bitcoin Magazine end up in Nashville? We need to
Live
get
from
DB
Nashville,
here.
yeah, we never said that.
I know, like Nashville, Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin in Nashville, Tennessee. Although we've been to Riga, we've been to Berlin, all these amazing places. Like Nashville is another amazing place, and Bitcoin is very, very prevalent here.
Yeah.
So let's make that happen. So thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
See ya.